This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. For Kia Hyundai, best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department, whether it's quick lane inspections, routine, all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. They are releasing players. I can assure you in no uncertain terms, there is zero thought ever of releasing Neal Coolong, sir. Welcome.
You bet. I'm the king of job security, and I appreciate that. As always, it's great to be here.
That's because you earned it. All right. But Darius Slay for Philadelphia will slide out. Davante Adams, Jets, sliding out. Sam Darnold, no franchise tag. What's your thoughts on those particular moves, and what kind of interest could there be out there for any of those guys?
I think Slay, an older player but still a productive player, I wouldn't be surprised if we are to learn later on Philadelphia wanted to discuss him staying on a reduced salary. And that could still happen. It just depends on what else he might get on the market. Mm-hmm. But as you know, a cornerback that is healthy and was productive last season is going to get work. If Slay wants to continue to play, I'm sure he's going to get something probably pretty close to what he was making in Philadelphia. Trade scenario probably doesn't work. A team will want to draw up their own contract for a guy like that. But a tougher move there. It's cap related, I'm sure. He's a good player. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia, though, is still going to continue to look to get younger in their secondaries. If they have a flaw of any kind on their team, that's probably what it is, just the age of their cornerbacks. They're letting go of James Bradbury as well, which also wasn't a surprise. Davante Adams, I don't know if it's just me. I don't understand how anybody truly appreciates the guy's attitude day to day. The total lack of production, the insistence upon playing a quarterback and then going out and putting up worse numbers with that quarterback than he did 2.5 years in Las Vegas when he was sulking about the quarterback the entire time. Not at all surprised the Jets got rid of him. If anything, I would say that could have been the first move they made this offseason. There was no way they were keeping him at his salary. And if anything, I would say Davante Adams is a good example to be careful of which receivers you pay. In this booming market for wide receivers, Davante Adams was one that had no problem taking the money, and then, from the look of it, did little to nothing to truly improve the offense that he played on. So if you get a guy that can only function when he has a good quarterback, and he even goes out of his way to say that to people, maybe it's just me, Steve, but I don't want him. I'm not playing with it. I'm not going to pay a guy like that. No thanks.
Yeah.
And he's going to find out real quick that that's what a lot of teams think, especially when he's going to go out of his way to say, I want to play on the West Coast, which is to say, I'm only going to sign with the Chargers. The Chargers are going to pay him a third of what he made before, and it's probably all going to be incentive-based. We'll see if he has anything left, because he didn't look good at all to me this season, and that's not the quarterback's fault. That's his fault. We'll see where he is. Darnold, I think, I said at the beginning of the offseason, this isn't being brought up. People look at this more as a strategy by the Vikings to not tag him, which is true. I don't want to dismiss the fact the Vikings, with their 2 draft picks, probably don't want to tie up $41 million in a position that they don't need to tie up that money in right now on their salary cap. They're going to have to sign a lot of guys in free agency to continue to kind of build on where they're going. But I also think there's a certain level of respect that comes with this. If they tag Darnold with the intentions of trading him, he probably doesn't have the same kind of flexibility as he would as a free agent. He can set up his trade. He can certainly say, I want to go there, I don't want to go there. But if you're a free agent, you can actually increase bidding without the house taking a piece, which is really what the Vikings would serve in that situation. I don't feel that's right to do business-wise. I don't think Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah wants to tell teams, I'm going to tag a guy just so I can get back a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick. I'm going to artificially keep this guy in place, which is not the spirit of the franchise tag at all. If you want to sign him, make him a competitive offer. If you don't, let him go out and find his market. Maybe let him go test his market. That's the right thing to do, in my opinion. A mid-round draft pick always sounds good. No one remembers a year later who it was, what it was. It's the right move by the Vikings, to say nothing of the fact that they signed Darnold to a one-year deal for a reason. It's because they were drafting a quarterback, and they have their quarterback. Now, he wasn't going to play last year anyway. They said that. If they believe in J.J. McCarthy, which they should, they don't have any reason not to, and they believe in Kevin O'Connell as an offensive leader, an offensive innovator, they should feel perfectly fine with number 10 overall in last year's draft taking over for a guy that, frankly, didn't sniff the year that he had in Minnesota. They should feel like they could do that again, and I think that's probably what their plan here is.
We go back to the baffling days of the Chase Claypool trade to Chicago for a second-round pick and bring you an exponentially better talent in Deebo Samuel, but because he wanted out and was public about it, it's a fifth-round pick. What does this mean for Washington to get him opposite Terry McLaurin?
What I would say first and foremost is when you have a young team with the quarterback that's not getting paid exceptionally well and a roster that's been constructed pretty well. I don't think people gave the new regime in Washington enough credit for that. Enter Dan Quinn. They didn't go with the flashy young coach. They didn't go with kind of the upstart. They went with an experienced coach who's been there. It's exactly what their roster needed because they have built up their roster very well. It's a solid roster. I mean, I don't think anybody would have predicted them being in the NFC Championship game last year, even if they lost by 80 points or whatever it was. They did a pretty good job of getting to that point. They have a very good quarterback that they've managed very well. They had the resources to take on Deebo Samuel. When you have that, then you get to pay less because what you're doing is taking on $17 million for a receiver that hasn't played a whole lot, has a very kind of niche game now, and one that's not going to improve within the next year, 2 years, 3 years. You hope that you can get more out of him. Apparently, he's saying now that he was playing above his weight. He couldn't really condition as much due to the injury. That's usually a bad sign. I don't know why he wanted to go tell people that's Deebo. From their perspective, though, they got, I feel, an excellent compliment to McLaurin while basically bringing him in guarantees now you have to give McLaurin an extension. McLaurin's been underpaid for most of his career, in my opinion. He's far better than he's given credit for. Big-time extension coming for him as well. So Washington more than likely is going to invest somewhere around $30 million this season in their receiving core. And it's a good team. They're coming off a great season. We saw it in that Steelers game. You could tell it's like this team's on the rise. They're really, really good. When they get a little bit better, when their quarterback has a little bit more experience, they're going to see how to win games like they lost against Pittsburgh and definitely should not have. When they put all of that together, they're going to make a run, and they're locking that up now. So you can see the work that they've put in is going to bear fruit. You know, there's the second year kind of sophomore slump of most quarterbacks. People don't really know what they're doing with him. It takes a little while to catch up to the rookie quarterback. I don't think you'll see Jaden Daniels at the same level he was as a rookie, but he was exceptional and played as one of the best in the game several weeks last season. We saw it similar with C.J. Stroud, but I think they have enough depth overall to be like Houston, a team that can come in and disrupt, win another playoff game, compete for their division title, if not win their division title. and be, a legitimate contender very, very soon. It's because they make smart moves like this. Deebo that's a steal for them because they have the money, because they've built up their team the right way. Deebo can add something to them for what they do, another element to their game, another weapon for Cliff Kingsbury to use effectively inside and out. I think it makes them an even tougher offense as they're going to continue to just organically grow along with free agency in the draft.
Yeah, and no question. See, this is where you have to have a question about what the Steelers are doing. I mean, I realize they've got a couple things working against them, but one of the keys is to build a team and not just a group of all-stars. Do you feel the same way about that?
Oh, yeah. Chemistry, it's funny. It's almost like there's, a direct proportionate relationship between the perception of skill of the player and the quality of what's around them.
Yeah.
In a league that has not exactly similar, but not exactly the same, but there's a hard cap and teams have rollover dollars that come into it. But teams are generally no more than $20-30 million apart on the salary cap.
Right.
They're drafting at different spots, and they have the ability to trade picks. But by and large, they have the same opportunities to draft the same amount of players every year.
Right.
It's built that way on purpose. They're creating parity. They want everybody to be able to rebuild and have a chance to make their teams competitive. And the more competitive they are head-to-head, the stronger the league is going to be. That's their theory. I think it makes sense. I think you take teams 4 through 20 in the league, they're a lot closer to one another than people want to give them credit for.
Right.
The difference is that chemistry. The difference is the presence of everything. I think we talked about this earlier with the Eagles. Everyone after a Super Bowl wants to kind of figure out what the secret sauce is.
Right.
They want to see what the one thing is, and fans in their excitement are going to list off this thing, that thing, the other thing. Somebody's going to say, well, it's this, and it's this, and it's this. The reality is it's all of it. If you're the Eagles, they drafted well. They traded up. They traded back. They signed big free agents. They signed little free agents. They retained their guys. They retained coaches. They changed coaches. All of these things they hit on. And that's really, in my opinion, the commonality with all of the consistent Super Bowl champions outside of a good quarterback who's not going anywhere, getting you a shot to make the playoffs every year. You put those things together and you get the right guys together. You have the front office that makes the right moves that a team has to make. You can have a shot, but it's about entering the playoffs. At that point, all gloves are off, and you need to have a fastball. You've got to have a signature. Every team has that. It's been defense the last couple of years. I think while Philadelphia shattered records as far as their offense went in the NFC playoffs, it was their defense that won that Super Bowl. So they have a great all-around team. Pittsburgh doesn't have anything. Pittsburgh doesn't have a fourth pitch right now. And the best that they have, T.J. Watt's only a year older, and I'm not sure how much he's going to be able to lift them, but they haven't necessarily made the right moves. I think they're getting better from a draft perspective, but still need some more maturation out of a lot of those younger players. There's still moves that need to be made, but they've got to get some impact players in free agency, not a trade for Preston Smith at the midway point of the season. Only to let him go after it. They've got to bring in some guys that can make an impact to them, along with whatever star talent they can get with their premium picks in the draft, and then hit a few times in lower rounds. And from there, schematically, they're going to have to find a way to do something that other teams can't stop or can't run with. That's really where they are. It's I think impressive the fact that they're able to win 9 or 10 games a year. But it really goes to show that they're only an inch or two above the mediocre level in the NFL, and they're not going to be able to grow anymore with what they have right now.
Well, you're miles above the mediocre level, my friend. Thank you so much, as always. Appreciate you.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.